Yeah. So the ban list just dropped last Sunday, and honestly, it was a really big one. I think we can all agree on the fact that it's much better than what we usually get, because this time there was a bunch of cards on the limited and semi-limited sections. Other than the unlimited section, which consisted of a bunch of completely useless cards like Ava, Cyber Jar, Monkey Board, and the Dangers, pretty much everything was meta relevant. And I'm pretty sure that this is the record for the highest amount of cards that are featured in the semi-limited section, because we've got 12. So yeah, 12 cards were semi-limited, 9 were limited, 4 were banned, and 5 were unlimited for a whopping total of 30 cards on the ban list. Therefore, even if some annoying cards might have dodged the list, or if your favorite cards couldn't get unbanned, at least most of them should make you happy. Personally, this is my favorite ban list of all time, and I genuinely think it will bring a great change to the game and also cure my burnout. Because honestly, I was kind of getting a little fed up with the format, it was just getting a little too stale for me. Nonetheless, I'd give this ban list a 9.5 out of 10, which is incredibly good. The only, I guess, point of potential improvement would be maybe the Fiendsmith cards should have gone a little hit. Still, compared to the average ban list we usually get, this is massive. Anyways, just how impactful will this ban list be on the metagame? I'll start off with the ban section and then move my way up to the limited and then semi-limited sections. Nightmare Griffin is the first one I will be tackling, and there is virtually nothing to say there. Honestly, it's a completely irrelevant card, and it's not really the reason why Malice was broken for the longest time. Banning Griffin is not gonna stop Malice from still making super broken boards with, you know, Hearts of Cryptor, MTP07, a bunch of draws, etc. And also, they can just still play the Fiendsmith engine, so yeah, it really doesn't change anything, honestly. I'd say Ling Decoder was pretty huge because a lot of the combos get significantly worse now, especially through hand traps. So for example, now if you go normal summon the Chessy Cat and then make a Ling Decoder, my bad, I meant a Lingrabo, and then you go for a Bestial, banish your Chessy Cat, and then link off your Lingrabo with your Chessy Cat and the Bestial for a red ransom, and then you get impermed, yeah, you're completely screwed. And also, some of their lines actually play much harder into Nibiru now. I mean, this is true until we get Alliance Insight, after which the deck will re-become unstoppable again. Abyss Dweller ban is a huge boost to the graveyard-based decks such as, you know, Mermail, Crystron, and Memento, and honestly, I think this is a great change for the game overall. Anything that lingers is extremely frustrating, and I hate those cards. But yeah, again, not having to deal with Dweller means that, you know, a deck like Mermail, for example, doesn't have to play garbage cards like Xyz Encore, which feels incredibly good. Because honestly, the Razor board itself can easily be picked apart using, you know, Passadra, the Storming Atlantean to, you know, bounce and then, you know, send heavy infantry, destroy a bunch of cards, and pick apart everything in like 2 seconds. Pretty much every deck that used to not be able to play Ultimate Slayer because that would play into Dweller can now play Ultimate Slayer because they don't have to worry about Dweller anymore. Which means that Raziel is not the same kind of threat that it used to be. Now, even though this is great news for Mermail, because again, it uses tons of graveyard effects, so Dweller does hurt, it's also a deck that plays Dweller, and it also got nerfed because of another card on the ban list. Bahamut Shark is now banned, meaning that the deck doesn't really have easy access to Toad anymore, which kinda hurts because now if you want to beat Nibiru and other hand traps, you basically have to resolve on Deep Sea Minstrel. It's not like the end of the world, but now you can actually lose to your opponent having double Nibiru in hand, and I can't really count the amount of times that I've saw people draw double Nibiru through, you know, Minstrel. Usually they would just remove another card from hand and then they would go for like the Toad on summon number 5 or earlier, and then they would just full combo and then, you know, negate the first Nibiru with Toad, and the second one can be used because it's a hard once per turn. So yeah, imagine drawing double Nibiru and actually still being able to use one now. That feels really good, huh? However, the Water Bearer statue is still legal, so enjoy losing to that if you play a non-water based strategy. Shoutouts to Crystron, who doesn't care about the Water Bearer statue at all. So I believe Mermail will remain a competitive option, but will be significantly worse into Nibiru because obviously it doesn't have access to Toad anymore and it really has to rely on Minstrel. Fortunately, the fact that it doesn't have to deal with Dweller will change the deck building and siding dynamics of the deck, and this of course applies to every other deck that used to lose to Dweller, including Crystron and Memento. Speaking of Crystron, that deck is extremely good into pretty much every half board that I can imagine, so it's not like it can really lose to anything going second now. It's a deck that could already beat like a Naked Detonator before, obviously not like Detonator with the field spell and the whole family, that's another story for another day. But now Crystron can afford to draw only like one hand trap, and it's honestly way more than enough. Now Memento, we already know just how powerful it is because it only saw one top at YCS Houston, and that top was actually the win of the whole event, so obviously if the deck was good when Razor and Malice were at full power, imagine how good the deck will be now. Then again, the deck is insanely difficult to play, just like Crystron and Mermail, so it's not like you can, you know, pick up the deck, be garbage at the game, and expect to do well with it. Alright, I'm done with the bans, so let's move into the limited section now. Bestial Jwizworm got limited, which means that Bestial Baldric might be the best replacement for it, and it's not necessarily optimal for people who used to play triple Jwizworm and maybe like one Baldric. Saronier is so incredibly bad that I don't really think people are gonna even consider it. I think there's infinitely better options such as Ally of Justice Cycle Raider and even DD Crow maybe. Malice now has a lower likelihood of being able to play through hand shops because obviously they have less Bestial, so if let's say Dormouse gets impermed, it hurts definitely way more. Speaking of Malice, they also just lost 2 copies of Dimension Shifter, good riddance by the way, so they're gonna be sacking you a little less often. One of the biggest nerfs of the ban list was the limitation of Bonfire, which is actually a premium starter in Raziel because it searches basically anything. I mean, it searches Ice and X Raziel, it doesn't search Sword, but who cares about that one? And giving them 6 copies of X was maybe a little too broken. Now they only have 1 Bonfire and 2 X because X also got semi-limited, so obviously if they want to play more copies of X, then they also have to play 7th Tachyon and 7th Ascension, and those starters are absolutely not on the same league as Bonfire. Don't get me wrong, those cards are still full combo and they're still really good, but unlike Bonfire, they have to go neg 1 to search a monster. Not to mention that if you only play like 1 number monster that can be revealed to search off of 7th Tachyon, like 1 number 104 Masquerade, and you get hit by let's say Kashtira Unicorn, then you're basically playing 6 useless starters in your deck. Okay, so X Raziel, Sword Raziel, and Ice Raziel all got semi-limited. Bonfire is at 1, and then you got, you know, your other starters like 7th Tachyon and 7th Ascension. We are looking at 13 starters, 7 or rather 6 of which actually lose to Kashtira Unicorn banishing the Masquerade. So basically half of your deck is actually completely useless if your opponent summons Unicorn on turn 1. Fantastic. Oh, and speaking of Kashtira Unicorn being the nuts this format, Raziel Detonator also got limited. Okay, so again, I am going first, alright? I special summon Unicorn, I use its effect, you hand shop me, I go, okay, look at your extra deck, remove Masquerade, and then on your own turn, you play the game just a little bit, I go Unicorn effect again, and then I look at your extra deck, and I remove the 1 of Detonator, your deck completely sucks now. The final noteworthy limitations are Crossout and Talents. Thank you, Konami, thank you. The implications for these cards is that now when you lose the dice roll and you only open 1 hand shop, it might actually resolve. The goal of hand shops isn't necessarily to, you know, stop the opponent completely and turn skip, but rather to make the end board at least more manageable just with your engine. Unfortunately, stupid cards like Talon made it impossible by looking at your hand and then making sure that they have the perfect information to make the perfect board and removing the 1 good card in your hand so that your hand now sucks and doesn't do anything. And Crossout was basically a super convenient version of Call by the Grave, and now that it's at 1, I think it sucks so much that it's not gonna see play whatsoever. I mean, seriously, who's gonna side in Crossout going first post game 1 and then keep in like the 1 of Molchimi Furos, the 1 of Molchimi Perolia, the 1 of Lancia if they play Malice, even if the Lancia is not even against the deck that loses to Lancia? Yeah, at this point you're basically doing like 1 Brilliant Fusion with 3 Gemini Garnet. Like, please stop playing this game. Now, I'll skip over the cool unbans like Circular, Masterpiece, and Brilliant Fusion because even though they're cool, they kind of change nothing about the game. Circular Unbanned is super sweet, and honestly I like it a lot, but with Link Decoder being banned, you can't really say that Mathmech is back to its full glory days. I am willing to change my mind on the Mathmech deck once we get to the Adignistr support from Alliance Insight. Now for the semi-limited section, I think Konami really outdid themselves on this one because there were tons of great hits. Like I said, Ice, X, and Sword Raziel are all going from 3 to 2, which is absolutely massive. Less consistency, and also the follow-up is way worse. Now, you can actually run out of names post turn 1 if your duo drive doesn't resolve and you don't have access to the field spell to recycle back your resources. This means that the Raziel deck is now easier to outgrind than ever, and even if you don't like break the full board and, you know, set up an unbreakable board after that, you can still kind of outgrind the deck, no problem. As long as they don't have access to the field spell easily, which unfortunately it's gonna be a joke once they get Star Raziel and Alliance Insight, but at the current moment, I think Raziel is very manageable and very fair. Honestly, with that many hits to Raziel, I don't really think that pure Raziel is going to be super viable, so a supplemental engine might actually be a necessity. I think the Raziel deck will be incorporating the Fiendsmith engine way more than any other engine, but Mitsurugi and Shark also makes a lot of sense. Okay, now we've got Malice, and just like Raziel, they also lost some consistency, but unlike Raziel, they were already inconsistent to begin with. So if we're looking at 3 Dormouse, 3 White Rabbit, 3 Field Spell, 1 Terraforming, and 1 Gold Sarg, that's 11 starters, which is already not like a super high likelihood of getting your stuff going, but it gets even worse because when you factor in the fact that now we've just lost 3 cards, we're dropping to 8 starters, which is like a 69.70% chance or something of getting your stuff going, which is a complete joke. And now if you want to play cards like Sighted Mining, then you start losing super hard to Ash, which the deck didn't really lose to before. So honestly, at this point, I think the best thing that Malice players can do is incorporate the Fiendsmith engine in their deck, which is potentially something they should have been doing before because the Fiendsmith engine is incredibly good, and also it fixes a lot of issues that the Malice deck has. So for example, if you loses to like Lancia, well, the Fiendsmith engine doesn't, and also Malice doesn't lose to Bestials, but the Fiendsmith does. But who's gonna side in Bestials against Malice Fiendsmith when you could theoretically just only open Malice cards, right? Worst case scenario, you only see Malice cards, or you only see Fiendsmith cards, and best case scenario, you see Malice cards and Fiendsmith cards like Engraver, Dormouse, and then you just FTK the shit out of your opponent. Now, I'm not gonna waste any more time covering the remaining cards that got semi-limited or unlimited, because for the most part, they are completely irrelevant. With that said, I wanted to conclude this video by saying this. This ban list is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. I get it? And I think that the format is going to be much more enjoyable to play until we get Alliance Insight, at which point Malice is probably going to become tier 0 or at least close to that. Until then, you can expect a lot of really spicy and suboptimal decks to be played because people are still going to be in the process of figuring things out, which is always super fun to look at. The field is going to be super diverse and people will be trying out a bunch of decks to see what they prefer. And I don't think that Razor or Malice will be the decks to beat. I mean, especially not after Memento just won a YCS, right? Now, I will be uploading a video on the best decks of the format tomorrow, so make sure you stay tuned. That's all I had for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how hyped you are for this format in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.